just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, Sean, you just witnessed something historic, and not in a good way. I'm still trying to piece together the words to describe the bloodbath that just ensued on national television.
That's the word.
Bloodbath? Is that the word to describe it?
Bloodbath is the word.
It felt like we were watching a preseason game, like a week 1 game between a ranked team that wasn't supposed to be ranked and the best team in the country, but it happened to be played in January. That's what that felt like. If that logic makes sense.
I mean, TCU belonged, right?
Well,
in some fashion.
That's the debate and the conversation I want to get into in a second. But I want to first talk about the game, and we're going to talk about the game in a bit. Probably not going to be a very long episode, as I'm sure most people can expect that the national championship game was not very exciting. It was exciting for all of 10 minutes of the first quarter, and then it just completely collapsed. Not a good day for me, though, Sean. Horrible, horrible day for me. I'm glad I didn't bet on this game. I took a freaking bath in terms of the comments that I got on Twitter and the people in the Twitter space, and then the text messages in my work group chats that I got for my take on TCU. So we can get into this game, though. Do you want to share a message from our sponsors really quick?
Yeah, this game was nuts. If you decided to tease Georgia up to minus 40, you still would have had a lot of room to spare, and you probably could have won even more money. And you could have done that at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season, everything from NFL and bowl season to esports. That's what we're going to be gambling on soon once the NFL ends. Regardless, this game, a bettor's nightmare. Georgia covered the over on their own. Make that make sense to me. Regardless, for the national championship, some people that decided 13.5 was enough for Georgia. Congratulations, you're the smart ones. The rest of us are the rest of us. We are the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So, Sean, coming into this game, I think we all knew that Georgia was the more talented team. I think we all knew how these teams matched up with one another. But we sat here on the preview, and we talked about how all season long TCU has defied the odds and how that they were always going to have a chance to be in the game. And not only did that not happen, but it happened in the most extreme sense that this is the biggest blowout in national championship history. The biggest possible blowout for a 65 burger to be hung on TCU's defense. And the only question I find myself asking is, how the hell did we get to this? How did this end up being the final result? And you said it a second ago before I tried to push to the read, is that TCU deserved to be here. That's not the TCU team that we saw all season.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Everyone's saying Bama should have been it. Marlon Humphrey,
Bama,
I know that you went to Bama.
They
They didn't belong. TCU belonged, and I believe that if we were in the 12-team playoff and we were to go through the same process, it still would have been TCU and Georgia in the finals. And for some reason in this game, TCU could not find footing on offense, defense. They couldn't get a scheme going. They couldn't get their run game going. And then when they did, Duggan decided to take the ball in the third downs and throw backbreaking interceptions. And I know he had a really good season, and I'm happy for him. And it's a lot of fun. It was a very fun season, but holy hell, did they just look up. They looked overpowered. They looked slower. They looked worse coached. They looked like their scheme had been figured out in 5 minutes. And if those are if that's all taking place, which it all did, then you're going to get a blowout like this. You're going to have third stringers for Georgia going in and have their time on the turf in the national championship game because they're up by 58 points against you. Unbelievable.
First of all, by the way, I just need to preface this really quick. I am not a TCU fan. My dumbass bought this because I was buying into the hype and I wanted some cool gear.
By the way.
And apparently that was the jinx that needed to happen here. But I said this from the jump. the play calling, the way that they showed up on that first drive, they look scared. The decision making that Garrett Riley approached this game, he has been fantastic all season long, and they have put up huge games. And heck, they were still in it when they scored, when they had that long reception and then Duggan scored that rushing touchdown. They were still in it. But the scared coaching approach on offense, I think, dug them into a hole that their defense could not dig them out of. What has made them so good is momentum and offensive explosiveness and keeping their defense off the field. Their defense is too small, is not big enough to go head to head with an SEC offensive line in a rushing attack like that and be on the field as much as they were in this game. It was an avalanche of bad thing that could, like, the worst possible things that could have happened for this TCU team just continued to avalanche and build up and build up and build up to get to this final result.
It seemed like they were being reckless on offense once they were down, and that is not a good case for them because TCU is a team that thrives in the chaos. They're a team that thrives in the mess and getting teams off balance. Georgia never looked off balance. They weren't scheming something up where it was going to be a one-on-one or someone's going to be wide open. And when it was, and they decided to force deep passes, interception, long pass, trying to force an easy play now, interception, and there was no balance to give them any semblance of chaos when they needed it. TCU was stuck in the mud. They were stuck in first gear all game. They never evolved in the game.
No.
And maybe congrats to Georgia for being so suffocating and deciding to turn the page so quickly after Ohio State that they could come back in here with fresh-faced and go at it. And congratulations. Because that's exactly what happened. It was a suffocating performance from Georgia, and TCU just the victims. Huge bummer. TCU was America's team in this game. We all got to see Georgia take out Alabama and be the guys last year. This year, we're trying to get stoked up for the 12-team playoff, and we got a team that could make it in a 12-team playoff from the Big 12 facing the big bad SEC, and TCU got smoked. And they know they got smoked, and they know they were cooked middle of the second quarter. And America knew they were cooked middle of the second quarter.
It also almost feels like we wasted all of the juice. We wasted all of it on the first two games. So much so that it was all the air was taken out of this goddamn game, played in this stupid, terrible stadium in an awful city with no tailgating, and the rain's just spraying on everybody because there's no fucking walls on the stadium. I'm not mad about TCU right now, Sean. I'm mad that was the final product and that was the two best teams that were supposed to compete. That was what the restructured playoff was supposed to produce. And we had two national championships played before this game, and I don't know what the hell that was. I don't. I can't explain it.
That was the national champions. That was the national champions of college football.
We should have just given it to them at the beginning of the season. I don't know why I needed to watch that.
Georgia got their test last week. They had their first test last week, and then they knew they could coast. Congratulations. You got past your hardest test. It's like you're taking the driver's test, and then before you even get in the car, you have to go do the signs test.
Yeah.
Like, that's where everyone fucks up on the driver's test. It's the signs. Oh, I've never seen this one before. What is this dual merge shit? I'm 16 and a quarter, and you're throwing this sign that's not even in my state. It's some backwoods sign in Vermont to look out for bears and falling rocks. That's what last week was versus Ohio State. It was the signs test. And once they had that done, oh, you got an 80. Congratulations. You get in the car. Oh, I've been playing driving video games all my life. This is pretty fucking easy. I know how to drive this car. Oh, look at me. I'm Kirby Smart. I can just whip this thing and parallel park it. Oh, Jalen Carter, how you doing? You want to see this? Oh, awesome. Perfect merge. Awesome. TCU just sitting there, can't get past the signs. They had a huge test, and then they go out on the road, and their car's sputtering, and they here we go. The instructor's having to use his brake, and there was no competency behind the car after they both passed their test last week.
TCU,
except Georgia could get behind the car and drive it.
This analogy, I don't know if this really works. That was a great analogy of the week, but TCU feels like the circumstance of the one dorky kid, or like the one girl who in the driver's ed classes that was taking it way too seriously, was studying way too much, and then they didn't know how to operate the car. They spent so much time learning the information, but they didn't bother to think, wait a minute, I don't know how to move this damn thing. That's what that felt like.
TCU
They passed
should have
every
been the
test.
younger brother at 14 that was taking the car, creating a bunch of chaos because they learned from their older brothers beforehand. That's what they should have been. That's what they were all year.
No,
and
they
then they get
shit
behind
their
the car
pants.
and then they shit their pants in the actual test. They know how to drive. TCU knows how to drive the car. They know how to drive a car, right?
Yeah.
We've seen them.
Yeah.
They're good at go-karting. They can ride a bike. They can do a wheelie. They can do everything they need to do. They've been practiced. They got older brothers. They've been sitting here. They know how to drive the car. And then when they got in front of the inspector to get their license, their little license, fucked it up. Oh, I don't know what to do now. Why are my windshield wipers going? Why are they going? It's 75 and sunny out. I don't know what's going on. What is this?
How do I get the car out of
I've
neutral?
never seen this
Why
before.
is the car in neutral?
Are we gonna stay in the same defense the whole time that's been picking us apart? We've been getting picked apart. Sure, why not? Are you gonna let them merge? No. Why would I do that? I'm in the left lane going 15 under. That's who I am. I'm TCU, and here's Georgia barreling down me from behind from like a competent driver. God,
that's actually
made for the moment.
An elaborate analogy, an elaborate metaphor sums up with the final sentence. They were in the left lane going 15 under, thinking that they're like, wow, we're going so fast. Look at everything that we're doing. Meanwhile, the 16 wheeler semi behind them is going 90, and that thing came fast, and it kept going as it knocked you out of the way. That's what it felt like.
They're creating chaos in all the other lanes. Okay, cool. Middle lane, right lane. Okay, maybe we're in a 4 lane. I got all these lanes that I'm creating chaos in. Don't go in the left lane. Oh, you're in the left lane now. You're in the left lane. You're in Los Angeles. You don't know how to do it. 305, 405. You got no shot out there. In Georgia, oh, we've been here before. I've taken this road. Want to see me whip this thing? Oh, I could do that. And they did.
Colin Cowherd has nothing on our analogy game. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But okay, look, getting
Maybe
us back
his
on
are
track.
more succinct.
I don't think his are because his stink. Because you start listening to Colin Cowherd do an analogy.
Oh.
He sets it up, and then it's the most awkward setup to transition.
How's our cat theft scheme going with him, by the way?
What was that again?
When
we were going to steal his cat.
Yeah.
You haven't come out here to steal the cat with me.
I need to know that we have a plan.
Well, you got to come out here. We got to make the plan. You need to come with me to find his house and get an elaborate.
You're the LA guy. You need to have the plan if we're going to take his cat.
I forgot that this was an elaborate plan that we decided on, that we were going to steal Colin Cowherd's cat. Maybe he'll give it to us.
What the fuck have you been doing in Los Angeles all this time? If not,
I forgot the mission. I forgot the plan. I've been fucking around too much. I've been goofing around too much.
God,
TCU is goofing around too much. But I think I would just want to open this up, though. We're not going to do a long show because Sean's got other work he's got to get to tonight. But everyone is going to be saying, were they deserving? And you mentioned the Alabama thing. Look, Alabama should not have been in the playoff because they had 2 losses. We shouldn't have played the season if that's the logic of just putting the most talented rosters. You have to win your games. Properly vetting and placing the teams is an impossible task because of all the variables. It's just impossible. But TCU, the way that they played last week, looked good enough because they beat the team that was, quote, supposed to be there. Michigan was the team that was supposed to be there, and they handed them a pretty fat L, a pretty aggressive, hard-fought battle win over Michigan.
Michigan also annihilated Ohio State. And that Ohio State team that appeared in the semis, we hadn't seen them all year. So everyone else, let's put on our memory hats and not just go 1 week back. Let's go 9 weeks back. Let's go to when Ohio State was struggling with Maryland, and then we're going to start comparing.
So, Sean, here's my thing, though, is that, who was the team that belonged? I think it was Ohio State, but they goofed around too much this season, and they didn't take themselves seriously, but they decided to take themselves seriously when it was way too late. And had they done that, last week's game was the national championship. That was the game that we were supposed to get, but we didn't get it. That's the only team I'm willing to concede belonged in the national championship. I can't think of another one. There's not a single SEC team, not a single other team belonged in that matchup.
I thought that the top four were seated appropriately. And here's a breaking news for you, Joe. ESP or Sports Center has officially killed smoking on that pack for everybody.
What did they do?
Smoking on that frog pack at Georgia football. #national championship. And it's Stetson Bennett and some other receiver smoking cigars. And I'm like,
ESPN,
okay, Attaway, way to really be
the
hip
whitest
with the
guy at ESPN tweeted that.
Good work, Omar. Good work, Omar. You suck. You fucking suck, Omar.
You think that
That's
was
not
Omar?
for Sports Center. It doesn't matter. They fucking blow. Smoking on that frog pack. God, you just ruined shit.
Okay,
Dad's
but
gonna be texting me. What does this mean? Dad, why? Why are we putting this there? Who's it? It's not for us. Sports Center, not for us, obviously. No. That pissed me off. It shouldn't have, but it did. They blow.
Look, moving on.
I thought the top four were seated properly.
Yes.
I did. I thought all four of them deserved to be there. I thought complaints about them not being there were rational, but not valid. Not valid, because the top four, Georgia, obviously. Michigan, obviously. TCU, to me, obviously. And then Ohio State, fill them in with whoever else. They still would have gotten beaten by Georgia. Maybe not in such spectacular fashion. Maybe not down to the wire. They still would have gotten beaten by Georgia, because Georgia is a team that nobody could mess with this year.
So that's the main takeaway here, is that no matter what we have done, Georgia was going to win this thing. Now, the way that they won it was in an embarrassing, just disrespectful fashion.
Wish it
the
wasn't
way
like that.
Oh, yeah. My God. I get credit to them. They just really, really came out swinging. They were slinging it the way that they played in this game. That is such a dominant victory. We will never see a game like that, I think, ever again in a national championship game. Truly a dominant performance. That's the main takeaway, is that Georgia, they were that good of playing that well all season long. All season long. They chose not to at times, but they unleashed it. They weren't afraid to unleash it. They put everything on the line, and it all came out. That is what their full force was. They were playing at 60% the whole season. They played at 100% in the beginning of the Oregon game, and then they kind of pulled back a little bit, and then we didn't see more than 60% the rest of the season. That's the full 100%. That, if we got that, Georgia, they would have been averaging 60 points a game. Maybe that's too extreme, but they still would have been killing people.
Here's what's crazy. I don't think of my mom as a sports analyst, but she said something a couple weeks ago that really made me like, oh, wow. When TCU lost to Kansas State, we were just talking about it. You know, me and my dad were just talking, and my mom was like, I think TCU was just exhausted at the end of the season. I mean, the emotional strain, the physical strain of having a season like that, and then you're in the Big 12 championship and you lose. I think you're just exhausted at that point. You took a break. You go out there, you play, I mean, as much effort that you could play with against Michigan. And then a week later, you have to go play the best team, one of the best college football teams ever assembled. Yes, one of the best college football teams ever assembled, at least over the past 2 years. We have to acknowledge that. One of those two teams or a combined two-team roster would hang with anybody if you were to complete a 2-year combination team. So you have to go out there and exert to beat Michigan. And then you follow it back up with Georgia. I think they were exhausted. And they look tired. And it's just, if you're not built to be that athlete that can go the full distance, which a lot of them are, but I think that season really took too much out of them. It took too much out of them. It was too much craziness.
Last thing I just want to hit on before we wrap up. I want to just open up the thought, because we're getting closer and closer to the 12-team playoff. Does this fix the playoff situation? Or does this prevent games like that? And frankly, I don't think it does. I don't think it does. It is going to increase the chances of the most highly competitive matchups, but I believe the way that college football is played out, there is an inevitable outcome of 1 year or most years there's going to be a team like that. I really do think so. And if anything, it increases the chances of that second best team of getting knocked off unexpectedly, kind of like we had this year.
The 12-team playoff is going to be awesome for a lot of reasons, but in college football, if you still have to play Goliath, it is nearly impossible. It is nearly impossible to beat them, especially if they've been there before. Georgia has been there before. You can't replicate that kind of experience, that kind of value of having that much pressure. And then, this makes Stetson Bennett a first-round pick.
Stop. Nope. Screw you. You're a troll. You're an ass. You're the biggest ass.
Whoa. What did I say?
That Stetson Bennett was a first round pick. You know what you're doing.
You don't believe that?
No, I don't believe that. He stinks. He freaking stinks.
We just put up 65 points tonight in the national championship.
Look at the supporting cast. Let's look at the supporting cast. Max Duggan should be drafted higher than Stetson Bennett.
Bunch of white receivers.
Well, Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the country. He's got a great offensive line.
I'm glad you finally admitted it. Admitted it. Look at you. You finally admitted it. Go screw. Checkmate, loser.
At Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio.
Oh, no, you can't.
The worst nut to. I'm rage quitting this episode. I rage quit the space earlier. I'm rage quitting everything.
Oh, wow. That was a massive win for Sean.
Subscribe to the Heck City on YouTube. The offseason is going to stink, but we're going to find stuff to talk about. Sean, what do you want to talk about first during the offseason?
Tight end power rankings.
Which stadiums would you most want to poop in? How about that? We start with that.
Okay.
Actually, no, not stadiums. Not stadiums. Football
I want to go Western Kentucky,
facilities.
so then I want to use Big Red as a toilet. Looks like one.
If we did football operations facilities, I would pick the new Miami ones or the slide at Clemson.
I need to know. I need to go to a mid-major where I know there's not much work being done, so I can always sneak up to the top floor. That's where I need to go.
Well, see, the key was at Rhode Island is that we were attached to the basketball stadium, and they kept the Ryan Center in pristine condition, and there were so many toilets. So if you walked into one of them and somebody was in there, you could walk up a level, down a level, go to another quiet toilet.
It's like a private bathroom. It's like having a private bathroom.
Everyone had their own private bathroom. Our team used the ones in the locker room. I'll never understand that.
It's like a stable of horses. Just I couldn't believe it. One next to another, just feet and legs.
Lined up and then passing around the wipes that everybody had.
Watching highlights and listening to NBA Youngboy. Through the night when it be.
The worst part is it's at 6 a.m.
Oh my god! It's the funniest. I look back and think about how absurd it is, and I also miss it dearly. I miss it terribly.
If we ever build an office, we're bringing that back.
Let's bring back doorless stalls. We should bring back. Or a plexiglass stall, so you can shut the door, but you still see through. Can you tell we're recording late at night?
Oh, God. You need to go to bed. At Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. That's a great note to end on. Drive safe, everybody. I'm praying for you if you listen to the show. If this is your go-to college football source, I'm praying for your mental well-being.
Yeah.